How far would you go to escape the daily 9 to 5 grind? For Morgan Steir, it started with a lakeside cabin and a leap of faith.
I just add, I wouldn't have had the confidence to launch this business if I hadn't built my confidence with my first business venture on my own.
He left behind tech sales and dove into the world of short-term rentals with no cleaner, no team, and no idea what to expect. Then came the hot tub repairs, the guest scams, and the marble countertop that was destroyed during delivery.
And it was a rainy weekend, and who goes to buy a lake house on a rainy weekend in the fall, right?
But instead of backing out, Morgan leaned in and turned chaos into clarity. This isn't just a story about learning how to self-manage. It's about reclaiming your time, your income, and your sense of purpose with courage to start small and grow with intention.
I found that walking that line was easier than I thought, but I wouldn't have gotten there if it wasn't for having a front row seat to watch it.
I'm Jason Muth, 33-time Airbnb superhost. After working 25 years in the media business, I started my chapter 2 in the world of short-term rentals. Since then, I've hosted over 6,800 guests and their furry friends, and now manage more than $30 million in vacation homes, including our own properties and 25 on behalf of our clients. This show is all about helping you create a smart stay, personal, profitable, and built to last. It's real world hosting done smart. Now, let's chat with Morgan. All right, Morgan, my friend, what is going on? How are you?
Hey, I'm good, Jason. How are you doing?
Last time I saw you, you were hanging out underneath my truck, and you smelled a little bit like paraffin, and you were covered in what looked like a clean suit. So it's nice to see that you've cleaned up a little bit for Smart Stay Show.
I cleaned up just for you. I bet you don't get many introductions like that on your show. But you're 100% accurate.
That's exactly the first time I've introduced somebody such as that. So all right, let's set the stage for everyone listening or watching. How do you say your last name? Steir, is that right?
Steir. Yep.
Yeah, Morgan. This is Morgan Steir. Morgan's a friend of mine. I've known him for just over a year now at this point. He operates a short-term rental property in the town next to where we have a number of properties, and we have to talk about that because we could probably share. We share some contractors. We probably have guests that go to the same restaurants. You and I may have been at the same shopping plaza at the same time, unbeknownst to us. But we know Morgan through another one of the partners at Smart Stay Coaching, Corey, who you've known for quite some time.
Oh, yeah.
And Morgan is our first coaching client with Smart Stay Coaching. And I was one of your first undercoating clients, right? Which will explain what undercoating is.
Yeah. You were like number 15 or 20. Yeah. Yep.
So, all right. So Morgan you're kind of like a Renaissance man. Like you've done a little bit of everything in your career. You've worked in tech, right?
Yeah. Software sales. Yeah.
All right. So he's a smart guy. He lived in Boston. Where do you live?
Yeah. I was in Charlestown for years, and I'm in Reading, Mass, just north of Boston now.
Yep. And like me, Morgan has found his way to the wonders of short-term rentals, specifically in the Southern Lakes region of New Hampshire. And now Morgan has a fledgling business called Undercover Undercoatings, which I think is an amazing name.
Thank you.
And what do you do as an undercover undercoater?
Yeah. So I started this with a couple partners earlier this year after my wife bought a new SUV 2 years ago, and this is a vehicle we want to keep for 15 years. And in New England, we deal with a lot of salt. And our last SUV had rust issues. Brake lines rusted out, control arms rusted out, frame was not in great shape. So I want to make sure we took care of this from the beginning. And there's something called undercoating. There's a lot of different kinds of undercoatings that you can get. But what they do is they can help protect your metal frame against oxidation or rusting. And in New England, it is accelerated in the Midwest because of the amount of salt and calcium chloride and awful road chemicals that are put down. So I wanted to get this vehicle undercoated. And after so many phone calls to mechanics that weren't picking up, phone tag and lack of transparency, they also needed the vehicle for 2 full days to squeeze it in, and it cost $1,000. I said, look, if Safelite Auto can come to my driveway and replace my windshield in 90 minutes, I just have to wave out the window and smile. Why can't someone come and undercoat my vehicle that quickly for a reasonable price. And
Yeah.
a couple partners I talked to, unbeknownst to me, were thinking the same thing because they're auto guys and they're also franchise folks. And we decided to give it a run. So I am the first location and the president of the brand, and it's been going great. And we're offering franchises across the United States now.
I love so this is not turned into a commercial for Undercover Undercoaters. However, I have given you a testimonial, and you've shown it to me. You pop up on my Facebook and Instagram feeds every so often, talking about your business. We're talking about short-term rentals here too, but this is all connected, right? So like once you saw me get my fancy new Ram 1500, limited Longhorn model, the Texas version that shouldn't be here in New England, but somehow this truck was. You're like, I got to undercoat your thing. And thank you for all the work that you've helped us do with Smart Stay Coaching, getting our property off the ground. So I promise you, listener, these things are connected. Okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I
So
wouldn't, and can I just add, I wouldn't have had the confidence to launch this business if I hadn't built my confidence with my first business venture on my own, which was the Airbnb. I had to flip it and basically get it on the market. So yeah, I don't think one would have happened without the Airbnb. So
all right, so I have your property up on my screen over here. It's a beautiful property on Milton. Which pond? 3 ponds? 4
yeah,
ponds?
Milton Three Ponds. It's a
3 ponds.
750-acre lake, but it's classified as a pond.
Yeah.
But yeah,
You bought this when?
October of 21. So it's almost exactly 4 years.
All right, so it's a COVID purchase, right? Everything's
It
locked
was.
down. Let's set the stage. All right, so you're married. You have a couple kids.
That's right. Yeah.
You're in Charlestown then, or you're in Reading?
We were in Reading yeah, we've been in
You're
Reading
in
for a
Reading.
while. Yeah.
All right, so Reading is a suburb of Boston. If you're not listening, if you're not from the area, Morgan's probably got the nice suburban house with the wife and the kids. Got some extra cash. You want to go buy a lake house? Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. I'd had a friend that was in the game that and I I grew up in New Hampshire. I missed having something in New Hampshire, and I wanted my kids to have a place that was a bit unplugged and on the water to enjoy. But I couldn't afford to own it outright. I needed to have something that I could also make sustainable in terms of cash flow. So looked at a bunch of the smaller lakes because the larger lakes are crazy expensive price point wise, and this one came up, and it's on a lake that's not well known, but it's a very good lake, and you can boat and water ski if you really want to on it. And it had a nice sandy beach with a level lot and a basement that was just begging to be finished for extra sleeping room and recreational room. And it was the fall, and it was a rainy weekend. And who goes to buy a lake house on a rainy weekend in the fall, right? So I
This
sat
guy right here, Morgan does.
I do. So I sat outside the open house, and there were maybe two other parties through there. So I went in at the end, knowing there were only a couple of other parties in there, and we put in an offer, actually below asking, because I could tell that the listing wasn't strong, and there weren't a lot of folks interested, and we got the property.
You went in with a bag of cash, or how'd you finance this thing?
Yeah, traditional financing, so 20% down, and got a
Yeah.
really good interest rate. So yeah.
So let's talk about, we'll start with some of the financial benefits that you've seen in the 4 years. I mean, like you actually mentioned something interesting about the confidence of being able to go out and do the franchise Undercover Undercoaters. And sometimes I get these soft benefits also of running these businesses that we do and having this podcast. This podcast, I mean, it's a video podcast too. We're almost 300 episodes in. I mean, it's built up so much confidence with me
I've been
that
loving it.
that we're able to speak this language really well. Like a few years ago, I thought I was a poser in this whole short-term rental space. And then you find your way into communities of people that actually share your knowledge, and that you realize that you're not far behind them. In fact, you're probably ahead of them. And then, you get to talk to people like yourself or industry luminaries, who are CEOs of tech companies that serve our business, and you're all talking the same language. You're like, oh man, I could do this. So you had that same feeling when you launched this property, and you're like, you know what, this is probably this is one thing in Morgan Enterprises, right? This isn't your only thing. It's one thing.
Yeah, yeah, it's one thing, and it's exceeded my expectations financially. I mean, my initial goal was, hey, cover the expenses so that I can have a lake house to go to once a month with my family for free. So I kind of did it as a lifestyle asset, right? And it's exceeded my expectations. It's had some great years and some good years, but it's never had a bad year. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, I would just say that I grew up landscaping in New Hampshire, and I'd gotten away from that manual labor, and in getting deeply involved and getting my hands dirty in this, it reignited my passion for manual work. And then when it started to do well in cash flow and the marketing, the pictures and the reviews, and started doing so well, I said, "Gosh, I could do something in real estate or in home services." I really started to key on home services because I just worked in that home extensively, from carpentry to insulation to some of the plumbing, and I got the confidence that I could enter the home services market eventually, and get out of software sales, which frankly just it changed a lot during COVID, and it wasn't a
Hmm.
place I wanted to be long term.
I know a lot of people in software sales, like a lot of people that work remotely that are guys kind of your age, like are in the software sales world. It's very lucrative when you're doing well, but it's a grind, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it could, everything's a grind, but that's specifically a grind because you're always constantly having to sell. You always need new business.
Mhm.
Most of the tech companies aren't paying people on renewals because usually you get your one and done, right? Like the first year contract, and then you need to find another one.
Yeah, you're typically a hunter or a farmer, right? You're an account executive for new business, or you're an account manager doing some renewal and upselling. I'd done
Right.
both. I'd had some outstanding years, and that had some really tough years. And
Mhm.
there's so many factors, and um, it can be a pressure cooker. And I always felt that I was good and not great at it. It only came somewhat naturally to me, and for me, I kind of went into it years and years ago, knowing it had a shelf life for me. That my parents were entrepreneurial and had a franchise of their own, actually, and
Mhm.
it was a means to an end, and I had a great ride.
What did your parents do? What kind of franchise?
My parents were in corporate America in their own right, and then they retired early and opened a senior care business. So
Oh,
they opened up.
wow.
Yeah, they
Great,
opened
great,
up
great field.
yeah, a huge high demand for the foreseeable future, and they owned it for 20 years before they sold to retire. I wish I could have taken over that business, but it takes a special kind of personality to be in the senior care business. It's hard, and it just wasn't the right fit for me emotionally. Um, but yeah, they were in that business. They did brick and mortar in center senior care, and they also were dual licensed to do in home care.
Mhm.
So they did that in the state of New Hampshire, and it was really successful.
It just feels like such a bulletproof, recession-proof business.
Oh,
It really is.
100%, 100%. It's just, it has its staffing challenges as a lot of businesses do, and caring for folks in that stage of life is emotionally, it's difficult. It's
Mhm.
really hard to be in that environment, right? From a young age, I never really liked being in hospitals, so being in that environment 5 or 6 days a week for the rest of my career wasn't for me. I wish it could. I wish it was for me because it was a great
Right.
business. Yeah.
So instead, you found your way out of the corporate world into the fresh air, well, combined with air that smells like the underside of a car. But let's talk about the short-term rental side, though. I
Yeah.
mean, like you went from working with a property manager who we both know and near and dear to our hearts, to self-managing. What did you learn about yourself when you decided to start to self-manage?
Yeah, it wasn't as scary as I thought it would be, and I'm a bit more understanding and empathetic with guests than I thought I would be. I'm a software sales guy, so sometimes I'm quick to react, but I through the coaching I've gotten through the last property manager and through you, Jason, I've come to really put myself in the guest shoes and make sure I'm doing all the right things to give them a good experience, but also be firm when you have to be firm, right? That happens. So I've found that walking that line was easier than I thought, but I wouldn't have gotten there if it wasn't for having a front row seat to watching a property manager doing it and then having folks like you. So
Thank you. Well, that means a lot. I mean, like we wanted to make sure that you were set up correctly. Now that you were taking the property over, going to launch your own listing, and then people are going to be messaging you at all hours instead of somebody else. But I'm looking at the property right now. You have a 5-star rating with your 23 reviews you've gotten so far this year, and you've
yeah.
had many other reviews in past years as well. But you're a guest favorite, so something must have clicked, like where you figured it out this year.
Yeah, yeah, we're proud. 23 straight 5-star reviews. Knock on wood. we're Kate and I, my wife, who helps a little bit, is we're really proud of that. And yeah, a lot clicked. Yeah, I'm
What
happy to talk more about it.
what what is what is your favorite part of self-managing?
Oh, my favorite part of self-managing. Um, I'm always in the know.
Keeping all the money, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I always looked at the property management as like, look, you are paying a fee, sure, but you also, it buys you some peace of mind, right? Um, but I've found ways now with automated messaging and just having the house properly set up and having some signage and some labels where, guests need a little help. It really cuts down on the amount of communication that has to happen, and that was my greatest fear. um, so I always felt like the fees, while they could be high, you were buying peace of mind. But I've learned how to give myself most of that peace of mind back, with the coaching I've gotten from you guys too.
What on the flip side, what are some things that you didn't anticipate that you learned or you're now going to have to do as a manager?
Yeah, I guess I would have to say platforms like Airbnb, where most of the bookings come from for us, they have a bit more power than I think I thought initially and that I'd like to have.
That's to say it kindly.
Yeah, yeah,
That 100%, and this is coming from one of the community leaders of Airbnb's New Hampshire state community, me. Um, their policies are not well liked by a lot of people that are reliant upon the platform. Not
yeah,
just like the day-to-day policies, but when things are challenged, when we all have to speak up, when we feel
yep.
like something has been wronged in terms of a review or the way a guest was, treated us or whatever, consistently I'm hearing from people that they're just not feeling like the platform is on their side.
I agree with that. I do feel like the power has shifted to the guest. They have a lot of power in terms of if they're noisy and you have to ask them to, for some help being quiet, and they have the power to write an outlandish review that Airbnb doesn't really back us up on challenging with the facts. That hasn't happened, but it had happened to me prior, when with some management companies, and it wasn't any fault of theirs, but Airbnb just they are taking the side of the guests a lot more strongly now than they used to. And I kind of sit and think like, I look, Airbnb has gotten a ton of inventory up and on their platform over the last 5 years, and I kind of feel like maybe they think, look, we've gotten to the point where we have so much inventory here now, like we don't have to satisfy or satiate hosts anymore, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
we've got the inventory, so we're going to just make it the best, easiest experience for the guest, which the guest should have great experiences, but it shouldn't come at the cost of damage to properties and abusing the properties or the
Mm-hmm.
hosts. Look, overall, it has not. It hasn't been that bad. I just have noticed the shift, and I've had a couple of challenges, but nothing major, luckily.
How do you take guest feedback and incorporate that into your future operations?
Yeah, yeah. We interact with guests. Some guests don't interact a whole lot, and some guests do interact. And it hasn't been a whole lot of late night stuff, really, to be honest, which has been a nice surprise. But yeah, we get feedback while they're staying, and sometimes after they're staying in the review. Um, and sometimes it's little things like, hey, the fridge in the basement was a little noisy. We didn't know that, right? So we had our handyman look at that. Or um, there are a couple other examples. Hey, we'd like to have more board games, but the problem we'd had with board games is that pieces get lost every month. So we have learned how to answer those questions. If we can't solve the problem for them, which a lot of times we can, we've learned how to tell them why the situation is the way it is in a better way.
I got to do a better board game audit, which I don't do. Like, I mean, I have the board games in the properties, but like whether or not they have missing pieces, I have no idea what's inside the box. I just kind of presume that most of the pieces stay there.
It's tough. I think some properties they do, and I mean, I've learned what board games are better, right? Like we have an oversized Connect Four on the wall, and
Oh
the
yeah.
pieces are like the size of your hand, so like those don't get lost, right? So it's like it's finding the couple games that don't have a million pieces that little kids we'll fling around. We've
I have
even
a, I have a,
found board game pieces in our hot tub before. So,
have you really? Oh, all right. Let's talk about hot tubs. Before we talk about hot tubs,
oh God,
I gotta ask the oversized Connect Four. I actually do have a story regarding that, and I do love how that looks in pictures. I need to get that in some of our properties, but I
yeah,
had oversized Connect Four at a client's property, and I think that it was there for a while, unscathed, and suddenly we take over management of it, and a couple guests into it, like there's pieces missing. There are
really,
pieces missing. I don't think it was broken. But there's pieces missing. So I said, all right, well, let me look up online this thing. It was probably about $120 off of Amazon. I said, well, let me put this in for a damage claim through Wavo, who's a company that we work with.
yeah,
We talk
I
about
used to.
Wavo a lot. Now, unfortunately, Wavo wouldn't cover it because it was considered theft. The pieces, the physical chips were not there. So in their mind as insurers, they called it theft, and they said you'd have to get a police report to be able to. Right. So imagine me calling the police trying to say, hey, listen, somebody has stolen the chips out of our oversized Connect 4 at our short-term rental property. Can you come write this up? Take time out of your day, write this up so I could take the police report and then go submit it for a $120 insurance claim. So of course I didn't do any of that stuff. And I went back and forth at Wavo. I'm like, it is a bit ridiculous that I would have to submit a police report for missing pieces for a game. And they said, yes, they agree, but that was the policy.
Yeah,
And eventually the owner actually ended up finding the pieces hidden under something. So on we went, right? But it was just, I tried to get it submitted and it was considered theft by the insurance
yeah.
company.
Yeah, something I've come to find in the business is you have to be ready to eat some small costs, and it happens, but it's cost of doing business at some points. So
That's a really good way to put it. Like, and there's definitely small costs that we eat both with the management company, Pride Away Stays, and our personal property. We try to get back as much as we can. I have an incident right now where the butcher block countertops at one of our properties have an ink stain on them. After a year and a half of no issues, I guess somebody put a wet bag down on it, transferred ink onto the top of it. So I'm not sure if we have to sand the whole thing down and resurface, or if it's going to come off with some like acetone or something. The problem is I can't get access to the property for 2 weeks because the guest that we have there right now just checked in for a 2-week period. And air cover, you have to submit something within 14 days of departure.
yeah,
So I got a quote for refinishing it from the handyman that you and I both work with, Chris. It's a fair quote, $425. I actually had to submit that to air cover for reimbursement from the guest, which I felt a little bad for, but I kind of don't feel bad because this is the first time that my neighbor who cleans for us texted me at like 9 o'clock at night and said that people are being loud at the fire pit in 9 years.
wow,
So
wow,
whatever, I sent it to him, and it's
9 years.
damage, and
Good month.
damage is damage, and what I've, yes, I could eat this cost, but like I'm kind of not going to eat the cost of refinishing the butcher block countertop.
Yeah,
So that's why air cover is there. That's why we have things like Weibo.
right, yeah. Anything over, once it gets north of $150, it's harder to eat. I had similar. I had a beautiful marble island, which I wouldn't have picked marble, but that's what's in the house. And I even have a little sign that says, "Hey, Italian marble, please do not cut on the marble." And someone took a mallet and was tenderizing chicken right on it. And yeah, they gouged the heck out of the marble. It's very similar. $850 claim, got the claim, had to push for it. But yeah, I feel you.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was, I
Um,
think, the biggest damage claim we've had was just the marble chips, $800. That was the only claim we've really had besides some hot tub damage. So
Well,
yeah.
there's the hot tub again.
Yeah, the bane.
I should reference other episodes where we've talked about $130,000 insurance claim, but that's a whole separate topic. About that. All right, hot tubs. Okay, I actually have no hot tub experience. Cheerfully, gleefully, I want nothing to do with them.
Yeah.
I've had lots of questions about hot tubs. I've considered putting them in my properties. I keep coming to the calculus of not doing it. Talk about hot tubs.
Yeah. Oh, I'll back up and tell the full story. Hopefully, I don't take too long. When we bought the property, it had an almost brand new swim spa, which those are like chest height. So like think 4.5 feet deep rather than like waist height hot tub, and like 18 feet long. And it's a resistance pool, so you can get in and swim against resistance in place. So it's like a 2,000-gallon hot tub. Most hot tubs are around 400 or 500 gallons, right? So this is like 5 hot tubs in one. And so we gave it a shot, right? With Airbnb, it can fit 10 people, but when you got 10 people having fun in a hot tub like that, tends to get rowdy. And to drain and refill 2,000 gallons takes a ton of time. And then for 2,000 gallons to get up to 99-degree temperature takes, it was about a 1 degree an hour, because it came with a heater designed for a hot tub, not a swim spa. And so, I mean, when we had folks the water needed to be changed, or we had a rowdy group that damaged the water, which would happen, every few months. It was like a 2.5 day process to get it back up in service. You can't do that, right? You can't do that. And it actually ran the well dry, refilling it. Because if you're running the showers or cleaning and refilling that. So I had to list it on Facebook Marketplace, this swim spa, which was $35,000 when the person bought it previously. Listed it for, I think, 16 or 17. Found a guy, 3 towns over, wanted one for his wife who had swam in college, and sold it for 14,000. And he was a house mover. He moved houses for a living off their foundations. So he's like, I'll have that thing out of there in 40 minutes. And he did. So I thank my lucky stars every day that worked out the way it did. I've got the funniest video of that thing getting driven out on a flatbed. He had to gun it up the hill. It was so funny. And that allowed us to go out and buy a reasonably sized 400-gallon, 5 or 6 person hot tub for 11,000. So actually, I net a few $1,000s, which made up for all the costs that it took to maintain it. And so we have a very reasonable Nordic hot tub now, which after some brief research, I felt like is the best built option for Airbnb. They're pretty sturdy. So we've had that now for, 3 years. And the key we find is just having the right handyman or service person to service that. And you've got to be ready on each turn to possibly drain and refill that and balance it and get it up to temperature. But the reason we do it is we had when we were there, we're on a lake. We're not right next to a ski mountain, right? So in the winter, the lake's not really usable unless you're cross-country skiing or snowmobiling. So it does help with occupancy and rate to an extent, right? So I kind of look at it as a break even or maybe even a loss leader, right? Like sometimes retail stores will actually sell an item at loss because it brings so many people into the store. I used to work in that world. And so I kind of view it that way, right? It helps us get those extra bookings and those extra nights because some people just want to sit in a hot tub that overlooks the lake with their friends. Yeah, it causes some headaches, but if you have the right person, it's manageable, and it is for me. I will say if it ever goes down or badly breaks, which it hasn't yet, I would probably give it a shot for a year without it to see how it really impacted my numbers before I would get another one. So that's my 2 cents.
How do you handle the extra laundry, the towels?
So we only provide bath towels. We tell people in the pre visit messaging like, hey, we provide bath towel for everyone and a couple extras, but you should expect to bring a beach towel for the beach and the hot tub if that's what you choose. And so far, we haven't had anyone complain about that.
Interesting. Okay. So we have beach towels at these properties. We're across the street from the lake, but people ask for them. Actually, the place in Guilford also, they ask for beach towels as well because it's right by Winnipesaukee. So, we provide those. We do ask people to, if they happen to use, we kind of like say, if you happen to use the beach towel, can you wash them? Like there's laundry facilities, all the properties, as a way of saying like, these are kind of part of the rental, but not part of the rental. So just kind of take care of them and put them back on the shelf clean if you do it. I have so many hot tub concerns, not really from a liability standpoint, but more from a maintenance standpoint. So I digest everything you've said, file it away into my hot tub folder in my head. Maybe someday I'll decide to do it. But yeah, like bath towels is something where I'm like, oh, now I'm creating extra laundry for my cleaners. Do you do laundry on site?
Yeah, we have one decent washer and one decent dryer. Our property sleeps up to 12. So for us to have bath towels and beach towels, I would have to get a second. Right. Plus the linens for 7 we have 7 mattresses, right, for 12 folks. And 12 is pushing it, right? 12 is people, pairing up. So the capacity of properties comfortably, 10, but we do allow up to 12 if there are a bunch of couples or younger kids sharing beds, and lots of kings and queen beds. But yeah, I mean, to have all those linens plus the bath towels plus beach towels, we just said, hey, look, like, please bring your own. And
Hmm.
we've had no one ask and say, it would be nice if you provided them. So that's interesting to hear.
Hmm.
And I haven't wanted to add a second washer dryer yet. I know that our cleaner sometimes does take some of the laundry off site if it's a quick turn, and then they bring
Hmm.
it back. But if they have a lot of time and not every single bed has been slept in or used, they are able to get it done just by running 4 loads in the time they're there.
I actually did add a second washer dryer at our big place, Camelot Chalet, which I haven't had you over yet. I have to have you over to the lake.
Yeah,
Next time we're both up there, you got to see my places.
I love that.
Um, yeah, so we added a second washer dryer at one of our properties. I'm thinking about finishing the basement at another one of them, and I'm like to add another washer dryer at that time if I do finish that basement. And then in Guilford, we actually added a second dryer, not a second washer,
Smart.
because it was just easier to add the second dryer and vent
Yeah.
that. It would have cost too much to add the second washer.
Yeah.
And as you know, the big bottleneck is drying time, not
Yes.
washing time. It's drying
Yes.
time. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah,
Um,
the drying time just takes twice as long. So yeah,
yeah, it's
that's
just
smart.
crazy. So having a second dryer allows us to kind of like just keep things moving for those turnovers. But you're doing all that stuff on site. Like, so do you know how long your cleaner is spending at the property? Is it a full 4 to 6 hour turn?
I would say for the faster turns where the house is in good shape and it was a smaller group, I think maybe 2.5, and then for the larger stays, 4 to 5 hours.
Hmm.
Um,
Do you pay differently or you just pay a flat fee for the cleaning?
we pay a flat fee. So I mean, I
Yeah.
look at it as, hey, sometimes they get a break and it's pretty easy, and sometimes we get what we pay for. So we pay maybe slightly above market rate or at market rate.
Yeah.
Look, I've always felt like in order to get great vendors, you need to be willing to pay top dollar, right? So
Hmm.
people might balk at what I pay for a project or a handyman or that person, but if you want quality and you want them to show up every single time, I believe in overpaying slightly, right? That's peace.
Hmm.
That's again, that's cost of doing business. That's peace of mind for me. So
Hmm.
it's worked. Knowing that it's going to be quality every single time is worth that extra $20 or $40 to me.
What type? I couldn't agree more. And I'm willing to spend the extra money to get people there quicker, faster, the best ones there. Whatever there is and whatever the thing is. Like I'd rather cut the check than
Yeah,
wait, or cut the
within
check
reason.
and get a bad
Yeah,
job. Right,
within reason.
right,
Yeah,
right. And I've had some expensive plumbing. I had a toilet that cost me $1,400 to get replaced, which is a good $600 more than I thought it was going to. But it got replaced immediately. So
yeah,
there's the only benefit. And it was a one bathroom place. So I'm like, I need this to get done right now.
yeah.
So who can do it? Is it done? Great. How much? Okay, great. I'll deal with it.
Yep.
Yeah.
100% convenience and time. It's valuable. So
What is something that like right now you've kind of discovered in self-managing that you thought that you wish that maybe we told you it's smart stay coaching, or something that you didn't quite anticipate when you were deciding to undertake this adventure yourself with you and Kate sharing stories over the dinner table?
gosh, that's a tough one. You guys prepared me well, and I got a front row seat to watching the management companies do it. Oh man, I guess. And to your point earlier, I guess I didn't understand that insurance didn't always mean insurance, right? The like Wavo of and air covers of the world. I don't think I fully understood how hard it might be to get them to cover certain things. But again, that's been so minimal or rare. I don't think I've put in a damage claim in the last 6 months. I mean, it's really been a couple times the hot tub needed $400 worth of drain and fill work right away in the past year, but that happens, and then the granite countertop, sorry, marble countertop. Other than
Mm-hmm.
that, it's been minimal. But the marble countertop, they put us through the ringer, right? And I didn't expect that. I guess if I had to pick one thing, but other than that, nothing has surprised me yet. Knock on
Yeah.
wood, because I know. Look, something around the corner. I guess you know what. Let me bring this up. I can't believe I forgot to mention this. Is I guess one thing I didn't expect, I think you know about, I confided in you or got your advice is we had a guest try to claim a slip and fall. We got a letter in the mail at random from a personal injury firm, and this young person who plays athletics, who is very agile, claimed slip and fall when I've had elderly people staying there for years with no problems, by the way. And so that was just something I didn't expect, and I didn't know how to handle it at first, but got coaching and advice, and it went away on its own because it was a frivolous claim. I hope that answered your question, gave you some some insight into.
Oh
Well,
man, that stinks. I hate litigious people to that level, if they were trying to pull one over. But yeah, I mean, that's so outshined by the amount of great guests that we all have, but unfortunately the ones that we remember are those few bad reviews or those few bad comments or those few bad apples in the bunch, for no
yeah,
pun intended. Um, so, all right. So let's start to wrap it up. I really appreciate like all the comments about how we really prepared you for this, because that was one thing that we were hoping that you would get out of self-managing and working with us at Smart Stay Coaching, which was, I can do this on my own and here's how I do it.
yeah,
I was always amused by your questions as they came in, and sometimes they were, fast and furious. And then sometimes they were, just on calls like this that we set up with you. But they were always good questions, because like you legit didn't know, right? I mean, you got to learn
yeah,
this stuff from the ground up. And what our goal was to get you up and running as quickly as possible, so you didn't have to learn all this stuff over the course of 2 or 3 years and 2 or 3 busy seasons and work your way into the level of profitability that you expected. Maybe one last question I'll ask you, like this
yeah.
past summer was your first summer of self-managing the property. Like, were you at the rates that you were expecting to get?
Yep, totally at the rates. I think, and I think we can do better next year because it was our first year, right? So going in the winter, we got a few reviews, but going to next year we'll have 25 or 30 reviews by then that'll all be strong. I think we'll command even better rates. But no, for being a new listing again, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely.
Yeah. We say that with the clients of Pride Away Stays also. And the ones that launched in last summer, not this past summer, but the previous summer versus this past summer, every single one of those properties is up between 15 and 35% year over year.
Good to hear. Okay.
Because and that wasn't our negligence the first year, it was the ramp up that is required. We tell people all the time, if you're launching into a busy season, and every one of our properties launched in like April or May, you got to kind of take what you can get, build up your reviews, take some shorter stays, because those are probably going to lead to a better review and more reviews. And then that will eventually get the algorithm working for you, where you could kind of work your way up to the rate that you want to be charging. And Morgan, I'm at the point, I don't know if I've showed you my numbers and stuff. At some point, maybe off camera, we'll dig into everything. But
Yeah.
like we're knock wood, we are gonna have our best year ever at Baxter Lake, and actually in Guilford too.
Awesome. Wow.
Um,
Great.
and I think it's just a matter of just continuing to do really good service to the guests, making sure they have great experiences, getting those good reviews, asking for the good reviews, delivering a good product, and charging the right amount of money, and optimizing your calendar and being willing to accept less money in the off season if you want to keep your property full.
Mhm.
And that's the strategy that we took this year, and it really has paid off. So I see a lot of opportunity in the area. I do kind of regret that AirDNA has rated us so high as a market. I don't know which market Milton falls into, but we fall into the Rochester market, and they suddenly have deemed it to be one of the top markets to invest in New Hampshire. And I'm like, no, stop.
I
It's
didn't know
just
that.
this lake. It's just the lake, but the more the merrier. That's fine. We have some new properties launching on the lake this year. We're excited to get them going, because if they're managed really well, then that'll help all of us.
Yeah. Oh, good,
Yeah.
good. That's funny. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, I know, right? So we're going to link up to Undercover Undercoaters here in the show notes. If you want to get into the franchise business and buy one of these territories, I'm sure there's information on your website for that, right?
Yeah, we appreciate it. And yeah, they can reach out to any phone number or email they find to learn more if folks are interested. It's a good business. But
We'll also we'll link up your Airbnb listing as well, so you can get a couple more listings as a result of people listening to this show.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
If I can take a minute just to tell folks, and you didn't ask me to do this, but I just want to tell people, like, if you're interested in coaching from this team. I mean, the reason I did it is, I mean, a lot, but number one, the tech stack. There's a lot of options out there for what hosting platform, what cleaning platform, what insurance platform to use. And I didn't want to have to play the game of picking the wrong combination of 3 or 4 platforms and having to switch that up. You guys helped me avoid that. How to communicate with guests the right way to get a good review, but also make sure they follow the rules and do the right thing for your property. And then another thing you guys helped me with was the listing description and the pictures. Like, what do you say in your listing and how do you say it? Those things for me, it just saved me so much guesswork and time that, and it made sure that my property got 23 straight 5-star reviews to kick off. Right. So, even though I'd owned the property for 3 years and watched the property managers do it right, there are still, how many dozen or so questions that I had, and calls that we had that saved me countless hours and mistakes and time and money. So if you're thinking about working with these guys, just do it.
Oh man, Morgan, your check is in the mail. Like I'll send you the Venmo afterward for those kind words. We buried the lead there, everybody. That's really nice. We like to have our guests be the star of the episode, not us. That's why we talked about your business first. But
I know, but Jake,
thank
these
you
guys
for
did not ask me to do that. They were a pleasure to work with. And when you meet good people and you work with good people, it feels good. And frankly, it's kind of a rare experience these days. So I felt compelled to do that. So
all right. Well, hey, we'll all celebrate together in your hot tub, or you'll come over to our lake and we'll have a big cookout around the solo stove. Thank you so much, Morgan, for being part of Smart Stay Show. Thank you for listening or watching. Please subscribe to the show on YouTube or Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, etc. We love 5-star reviews. Always ask for that review. And we also love your comments. And if you want to be a guest on the show, you can go to smartstayshow.com for all past episodes and to fill out our lead form. Let us know who we are and what you want to talk about. All right, Morgan, we'll catch you later. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Have a good one.